Over the past year, the Lakers have hired a guy he co-hosted a podcast with. They also drafted Bronny James, and then all made statements like Bronny had earned the right to be a second-round pick when that's not even close to accurate.
Not possible.
Then they played Bronny the first game of the season. And throughout times in the NBA season, well, give him a guaranteed 4-year contract, despite the fact he was like, what, the 55th pick in the NBA draft? The whole thing is a massive contradiction and a statement of being ungrateful.
Doug Gottlieb just took aim at LeBron James, and he didn't hold back. The accusation was blunt, selfish, ungrateful, and completely out of sync with the team that bent over backwards to accommodate him. And whether you agree or disagree, the conversation he sparked touches on something much bigger than one player or one contract. It's about power, loyalty, influence, and what happens when a superstar's control over a franchise starts to fade.
Rich Paul was the guy who LeBron met, I think, selling jerseys out of the back of his car, right? So he's part of, started from the bottom, now we're here.
Do you agree with Doug Gottlieb calling LeBron selfish and ungrateful? Or is this just another unfair media attack on a legend? Drop your take in the comments and let's debate. Does LeBron still put winning first, or has the narrative finally caught up to him?
He had this statement to ESPN. LeBron wants to compete for a championship, Paul told ESPN. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance at winning it all. We're very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeanie and Rob Pelinka and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage of his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count, and the Lakers understand that, are supportive of what's best for him.
For years, LeBron has been praised for his basketball IQ, leadership, and ability to elevate teammates. But Gottlieb's argument flips that narrative on its head. He claims that behind the greatness is a pattern, one where LeBron's decisions consistently shape organizations around his personal priorities first. That includes roster construction, coaching hires, and even the direction of a franchise's long-term planning. And now, with the Los Angeles spotlight hotter than ever, critics are asking a tough question. Did the Los Angeles Lakers give LeBron everything he wanted, only to get frustration and public pressure in return?
You have to match up your actions with your words.
Facts.
If LeBron wants to win a championship, well then, why would you opt into a deal that pays you $53 million?
Real talk.
Because here's how it really works. If you want to win, you know you got to take less so that you can pay more to go out and get guys on the free agent market. And if you want to guarantee yourself a big fat paycheck, what you can do is you can backload a contract, do it as a player-only option, and you play a year with the Lakers. And oh yeah, by the way, if it doesn't work out, you want to retire. You have them buy their way out of an opt-out or whatever, or you can go somewhere next year. There's a million different things you can do.
One of the biggest points of controversy revolves around influence. The Lakers hired a head coach LeBron had podcast chemistry with in J.J. Redick, drafted his son Bronny James, and reshaped the roster repeatedly to match his competitive timeline. Gottlieb argues that these aren't coincidences. They're signs of a franchise prioritizing one player's orbit over traditional team building. And when the results didn't immediately produce championships, the tone reportedly shifted from gratitude to dissatisfaction.
You can say you're appreciative of Jeanie and Rob Pelinka. Your actions are far different.
Yep.
Because if you're really appreciative, why would you release a statement? If you really want to win a championship, why'd you release a statement? How it lands on me is poorly because it feels like the Lakers, and LeBron has talked about it, and he always couches it with I understand. Now we're building around Luka. This is LeBron James and Rich Paul pouting and trying to exert some sort of leverage that doesn't actually exist. This is no different than LeBron when he was leaving Cleveland the second time, leaking out there that could be interested in the San Antonio Spurs, who had no interest in LeBron James.
Wasn't happening.
Because you can say, hey, we're really appreciative, but the reality is, are you?
At the center of this narrative sits LeBron's longtime agent, Rich Paul, and his agency Clutch Sports Group. The partnership has been one of the most powerful player-agent relationships in modern sports. Together, They've shaped contracts, orchestrated moves, and applied pressure in ways that changed how superstars interact with franchises. But Gottlieb suggests that power cuts both ways. When public statements about wanting to compete surface while a player opts into massive salary commitments, it raises eyebrows across the league. The financial side of the debate is where criticism intensifies. Opting into a deal worth over $50 million while simultaneously pushing for a championship roster creates tension. In the NBA's salary cap system, every dollar matters. Gottlieb's argument is simple. If winning truly is the priority, sacrifices follow. Take less money, free up cap space, bring in talent. That's the formula legends have followed in the past. So when LeBron keeps the full salary and the team struggles to add elite pieces, critics see a contradiction between words and actions.
Let me make this clear. Over the past year, just the past year alone, we'll make it 13 months a year. Is that okay? Over the past year, the Lakers have hired a guy he co-hosted a podcast with as the head coach of the Lakers. And look, I get it. Like, I'm not that different from the JJ Redick hire. Okay? But it's the head coach of the Lakers, and they hired him. Okay? They also drafted Bronny James. And then all made statements like Bronny had earned the right to be a second-round pick when that's not even close to accurate.
Not possible.
Then they played Bronny the first game of the season. And throughout times in the NBA season, well, give him a guaranteed 4-year contract, despite the fact he was like, what, the 55th pick in the NBA draft? So the worst thing they did, and then if you predate that, they went out and got Anthony Davis. They overpaid for Anthony Davis. Why? He was a Rich Paul client. And when they struck out the first time around, they went back in the offseason and went after him and got him. Overpaid for him. Remember, they got Russell Westbrook on the LA Lakers. Why? They were going to get DeMar DeRozan. That was the guy. Well documented. DeMar DeRozan was going to be the third guy. But what happened was LeBron was like, nah, we like Russell Westbrook better.
Then there's the ripple effect of past moves. The acquisition of Anthony Davis cost the Lakers a massive portion of their young core. The trade worked in the short term. It delivered a championship, but it also reshaped the franchise's future. The later push for Russell Westbrook added another layer of complexity. That experiment didn't just fail on the court. It restricted roster flexibility and sparked years of instability. Critics now argue those moves weren't isolated decisions. They were part of a LeBron-driven win-now philosophy that left the Lakers constantly adjusting. Gottlieb and others point out that alternatives existed. Players like DeMar DeRozan were reportedly within reach at different points. Different roster combinations might have created more balance. But when the team followed LeBron's preferences and the outcomes didn't produce sustained success, the question becomes unavoidable. Who is accountable? The front office for agreeing, or the superstar whose voice carried the most weight? That's where leadership comes under the microscope. LeBron has always been praised as a player who makes teammates better. Yet Gottlieb frames it differently. He describes LeBron as selfless on the court, but transactional off it. Someone who moves strategically, calculates leverage, and keeps future options open. It's not necessarily a criticism of character, it's a criticism of priorities. Because when every decision feels like it's tied to personal control, the perception shifts from leadership to manipulation. Another layer of tension comes from the changing power dynamic within the organization. The Lakers front office, led by Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, has increasingly signaled a future beyond LeBron. Younger talent, long-term cap flexibility, and strategic patience have become more visible priorities. And when a franchise starts planning for life after its biggest star, friction is inevitable. For the first time in years, it appears the Lakers aren't bending at every request. That shift also coincides with the rise of new faces and new timelines across the league. Teams are investing in youth, continuity, and long-term planning rather than star-driven quick fixes. In that environment, the era of total superstar control feels like it's fading. And for a player who built a career mastering leverage, losing it, even slightly, changes everything. Some critics even connect this moment to a broader career pattern. LeBron's departures from Miami Heat and Cleveland Cavaliers reshaped those franchises overnight. He's always had the power to walk, to pivot, to reinvent. But this time feels different. Age, contracts, and shifting league dynamics make it harder to dictate outcomes. Gottlieb's take is that the frustration we're seeing now is less about the Lakers and more about the reality that LeBron's leverage isn't what it used to be. And then there's the Bronny factor, one of the most emotionally charged parts of the entire discussion. Drafting a superstar's son is unprecedented in modern NBA history. It's a story filled with pride, opportunity, and pressure. But critics argue it also placed the Lakers in a difficult position, balancing development, public expectations, and competitive integrity. Whether Bronny earns his role long-term remains to be seen, but the perception that the move was influenced by LeBron adds another layer to the control narrative. Coaching decisions have also fueled debate. The exits of Frank Vogel and Darvin Ham highlighted how quickly leadership changes when expectations aren't met. In superstar-driven environments, coaches often become the first casualties. Gottlieb suggests this pattern reinforces the idea that LeBron's preferences shape more than just lineups. They shape entire organizational structures. At the same time, defenders of LeBron push back hard. They argue he delivered a championship, elevated the franchise's global relevance, and consistently carried massive expectations without off-court scandals. They point out that every superstar exerts influence. Magic did it, Kobe did it, Jordan did it. The difference, they say, is that LeBron's era is documented in real time, magnified by social media and non-stop commentary. Still, the financial contradiction remains the centerpiece of Gottlieb's argument. If a player wants a championship roster but occupies a huge percentage of the salary cap, the math becomes difficult. Championships often require sacrifices, from players, executives, and owners alike. And when those sacrifices aren't mutual, frustration builds. There's also the emerging reality that the Lakers may be shifting toward a new identity built around younger stars and long-term flexibility. The possibility of targeting future talent, maintaining cap space, and positioning themselves for the next era signals a strategic reset. In that scenario, LeBron becomes both a legend and a transitional figure, someone who defined an era but isn't necessarily the centerpiece of what comes next. For Gottlieb, the heart of the issue isn't basketball at all, it's appreciation. He argues that the Lakers gave LeBron extraordinary support, roster control, coaching influence, and personal accommodations rarely granted to any player. And when public messaging suggests dissatisfaction despite those concessions, it creates the perception of ingratitude. Whether that perception is fair or not is subjective, but it's clearly resonating. The timing adds another layer of drama. As LeBron moves deeper into the final chapters of his career, every decision feels magnified. Every statement is analyzed. Every contract becomes symbolic. He's no longer just competing for wins, he's shaping his legacy. And legacy, more than statistics or championships, often comes down to how players are remembered in moments like this. There's also the Luka factor looming over everything. The emergence of Luka Doncic and the league's new generation represents a shift in power and attention. As younger stars dominate headlines, the league naturally transitions. For veterans, that transition can feel abrupt. For critics, it signals the end of an era. Ultimately, this controversy reflects the complicated reality of modern sports. Superstars hold immense power. Franchises depend on them for relevance and revenue. Agents shape narratives. Media amplifies every detail. And fans interpret everything through loyalty, success, and emotion. In that environment, even a single contract decision can ignite debates about character, leadership, and legacy. Gottlieb's comments may be harsh, but they tap into a broader question that defines LeBron's entire career. Is he the ultimate team player or the ultimate power player? The answer, depending on perspective, might be both. He's built dynasties, reshaped franchises, and delivered unforgettable moments. But he's also operated with a level of control rarely seen in sports history. As the season unfolds and the Lakers continue navigating their future, one thing is certain: the conversation isn't going away. Every game, every roster move, every statement will feed into the narrative. And whether LeBron responds with another championship push, a strategic exit, or a quiet transition into retirement, the debate about selfishness versus leadership will follow him. Because in the end, this isn't just about one contract or one critique. It's about what greatness looks like when power, loyalty, money, and legacy collide. And for LeBron James, a player who has spent 2 decades redefining what a superstar can be, the final chapters may be the most scrutinized of all. And if you made it this far, you already know this debate is far from over. The story around LeBron, the Lakers, and everything happening behind the scenes is still unfolding, and every game adds a new chapter. So if you want real conversations, bold takes, and breakdowns that go deeper than the headlines, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who's been following this drama too. And don't forget to drop your opinion below, because in this era of basketball, every voice and every perspective is part of the conversation.